Okay, out there in Burby land, I am here to introduce to you guys. This is Carol. Carol is a behavior analyst, and I'm going to let her speak to what her job is and what she does in her day to day before we really get this party started. Actually, there's only three sets of eyeballs on here, so maybe I should give it a moment before I get into the
Okay.
meat and potatoes of things. But so I know that you and I can really get to chatting. Um,
Yes. Yeah, we can.
and oh look, 13 sets of eyeballs popped up
Wow.
that quickly.
Hello,
All right,
everybody.
all right, cool. Whew. So I did not, and people have got to forgive me. Life has bombarding me with so many stories. I
Yeah.
get so many emails, so many tags. I get inboxes all the time. So it's challenging. And at this particular point, I don't know if no, I haven't told you, but
Yeah.
I am working on getting an assistant. I
Yay.
have to get an
Good.
assistant
Yeah.
and somebody to help moderate because it's just becoming just too much. Now, hi Camille, thank you. Hopefully you can moderate for me. You know what I'm looking for. Um, I gotta have moderators these days.
Yeah.
And you knew
Understandable.
what was going to happen in the beginning.
Yes.
Y'all,
Yes.
Carol Carol is one of the people that told me that I need to be interviewing folks. And I'm like, how am I going to interview people? But
Yes,
these
I
days,
did.
these days, I keep having people just fall in my lap for
Yes.
me to talk to. It's pretty ridiculous. All right. Now that we have a couple dozen people on the live, can you please tell people for the record what is a behavior analyst? And I know that you can talk
I can
in
talk.
very
Yes.
smart terms and
I
give us
try.
give us the
I
elevator,
try.
girl.
Sure. Ladies, yes, she and I are really, this is how we really are. We get along very, very well and everything. So, yeah, so we may go on a tangent, but we get back on track. This is it what it is. Yes. So let me explain what a BCBA or a board certified behavior analyst. Basically, the best way I can put it is I am the in between what they call natural sciences, which would be like biology, chemistry, things like that, and social sciences, which is psychology and things like that. I'm the in between. So basically, in a nutshell, is I look and I analyze people's behavior and I develop a hypothesis on that and develop a resolution or treatment to that. What makes me different from psychologists and psychiatrists and other social scientists is that we use the natural sciences where you collect hard data. So as a BCBA in our world, if data is not collected, it didn't happen. If we can't observe it, didn't happen. So that is where we are. So the best way I tell people is think of me as the engineer of kind of the social sciences. That's the best way to put it. I use practical knowledge that has been peer reviewed and studied, and I apply that to a certain behavior that needs to change, no matter how big or small. And I record data to see if it gets better or gets worse. And if it gets worse, I change I change the road and I do other things to see what does work.
Okay. And so when I talk, I am not talking as a behavior analyst,
Mm-hmm.
but one of the things that I have been saying for the past year, and a lot of the people who have been following me for a while hear me say, these men's are failing and
Yeah.
flailing.
Yes.
And you know how I do. And
Oh yeah.
what we're seeing these people falling out of the workforce. We're seeing these people come at women, harm women in egregious ways, like that case that I just Yeah, Samaya,
Yeah,
that just
tragic.
yeah, that tragic case.
Yeah.
And so, as a behavior analyst, and I know we have already some things on point to talk about, but
Yes.
what are you seeing?
Well, okay. So one thing as a behavior analyst, all behavior has a function. So, for example, when you, as a person, are craving a candy bar or a sweet or whatever, that's what they call a tangible function. So, there's the other behaviors that exist that me as a behavior analyst and other behavior analysts, we look at the function of a behavior. Everything boils down to a function, whether it's something that you can't control, which is what we call an automatic behavior. That would be example like sex, sleep, eating, hunger, things like that. You can't control that. You just can't. Um, so then there's like um, tangible, there's, oh God, what is attention based, and then escape. So the other ones are kind of how I think most people understand what attention and escape is. Um, but there is one that's what they call an atypical behavior, which is counter control.
Okay,
Uh,
counter
and
control.
counter control. So I've heard some, and before I'll preface this before we go into explaining what counter control is. From my perspective as a behavior analyst, and I've seen psychologists talk about this, counter I've seen them to not talk necessarily about counter control because I don't think a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists are aware of it as we as behavior analysts are aware of it. They talk about extinction bursts. I don't see extinction bursts happening. What I see, and I don't really see some things I see on at a societal level kind of slowly petering out. At a cultural level, it takes a lot longer, but I don't necessarily see an extinction burst. In order for an extinction burst to happen,
Okay, yeah, I've
it
heard of extinction bursts, and I
right.
I just thought I thought I'm sorry, what? I said I've seen extinction bursts, and I thought that these men acting out was an extinction burst, but you say
No,
no, it's counter
no,
control.
it's out of control. So one thing that I need to explain what extinction is. Extinction is when a behavior kind of just goes away. It just peters out. An extinction burst is when it really amps up and it gets extreme and then it goes away. So, but the issue is that why, as a BCBA, I have issues with people putting that out there that's an extinction burst. It's because in order to something be a true extinction burst, you can't feed into the behavior. So the men are doing this behavior that yeah it can look like an extinction burst, but when we feed into that the negative behavior that we see, it's not going away. So that's not really a true extinction burst, because if we actually didn't really feed into it, it would taper off. But it's very very difficult on a huge societal level to have a extinction burst happen. So it just is very difficult. Now, counter control is what I see happening. Counter control is basically within applied behavior analysis. It's a phenomenon where an individual tries to influence or change the behavior of another person by adjusting their own actions.
Okay.
So so it's basically you're countering what somebody is trying to do to control you. Now, that doesn't mean that that's good or bad. In behavior, there's not necessarily good or bad. Behavior is behavior. All behavior is communication. So, a good example of a positive way within counter control. Um, so, you imagine a student, if you're a teacher and a student is disrupting the class constantly, right? The teacher is going to use counter control in a productive way by adjusting their teaching methods to keep that student engaged. So that when they find out what keeps that student engaged, they reduce the disruptive behavior. That's not a bad thing. We want to have that teacher use counter control in that aspect. Another example is a kind of more common scenario for most people. If you have a friend that's habitually late, you
Mm-hmm.
might adjust your schedule to telling them to meet you 15 minutes earlier. and that way you kind of influence their punctuality. Now
Okay.
you may have not told them to do, or the reason why you might just kind of on the slide say, hey, show up at 5:45. you know, so that would be counter control. So there's not counter control is not necessarily a bad or good thing.
Okay.
It's a behavior.
Okay. We were about to, I know you want to talk about what is going on with the abortion medication, but
Yes.
could an example of counter control be like when Trump went into office and birth control access, I mean, people getting on birth control jumped?
Yes, that's a perfect example of that. So when they got into office, and when he got into office, and they did all those draconian laws to try to control behavior, even the men, some men reacted to that and got an increase in vasectomies. Yes, that is a form of counter control. Yes,
Okay. So we see what's going on in the
yes,
world, and
yeah,
women are taking steps to counter it because, like you said, it's counter control.
yes.
Are we as women do so? What the example that I gave was, the presidency and the political climate at
Hmm.
that particular point.
Yes,
Are you seeing women using counter control in regards to what's going on with men?
yes, I do. And men are using it too. It's interesting from taking my gender out of the picture and just looking at as a BCBA. Yes, we're using it with each other. It's kind of
Okay.
like watching for your audience, a good example they could visualize this kind of like a tennis match.
Okay.
That's a good way to put it. So you have to look at it this way: men have been had patriarchy for centuries, right? And they've been beating us in with the matches, the tennis matches. Now we have had tools under us very recently, like within not long, within what the past maybe 100 years, where we're actually being able to really play a more even match with them within their game. So they are kind of freaking out about it.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, they're freaking out about it. So they're using a lot of men are using a lot of measures to try to get back into control. And we are just countering that. Another good example of counter control is the 4B movement in South Korea.
Yes.
Beautiful example of that.
Yes.
And and what's nice about that for those women and how it's globally beginning to spread, and I'm seeing this as a behavior analyst, that more and more women are actually starting to model their behavior. They're learning from it. It's what we would call operant learning. So it's behavior that's not it's not doesn't just occur just like sleep occurs, right? It's behavior that's learned. So other women worldwide are actually looking at women from South Korea and say, you know what? I think I can do that here.
Okay.
So we're taking some cues of that, and I see it increasing more. Um, and in turn, it reinforces, it motivates the women that are in their culture. Say, hey, you know what? Other women agree with this. And you know what? I'm going to continue.
Yes.
Because in your comments, it's interesting. In your comments, I see women that are from that area coming in and saying, yeah, this is what's happening on. And they actually are encouraging. I've seen this in your comment. They're actually encouraging American women and German women and Canadian women to, take this on, do what we're doing. So you are all kind of supporting each other.
That's what I'm seeing like consistently, and I'm on both TikTok and
Yes.
YouTube, seeing like America needs a 4B movement, America needs a 4B movement. But what I am really going to be interested in, I cannot wait till the CDC or whoever puts out our official numbers, birth numbers from 2023, to see
Yes.
where the birth rate is. And do they separate it like births of people? I mean, like the migrants that just got here versus the native born people who are
I
having kids?
Honestly, I think they do. I'm not sure where you would find that data, but I have come across something like that in the past. But
Because
that's not my forte. So,
okay. Yeah,
but I
because
have come across
I
that.
want to know because the people that come here are not as jaded as the people that have already been here, I don't think.
Yeah.
But I really want to see the birth rate plummet to Satan's pantry at this particular juncture because of just what is going on.
Well, okay. So as a BCBA, I don't know if it will ever totally go to below hell numbers. Where we're seeing Satan going, what the hell's going on?
Right.
But I do see a trend, and for me as a BCBA, I look at trends. So do I, as a BCBA, taking my gender out of it, I see the trend of women and honestly younger men joining in and saying, you know what, I really don't want to have kids. Is it really necessary for me to have kids? It's too expensive. There's too many what we call in a behavior analysis abolishing operations or things that are set up in advance that kind of influence how what decisions you make in your behavior. What are the consequences to that? So having children is an abolishing operation for a lot of people right now. And honestly, as a behavior analyst, I agree with that. If having children is not in your best interest right now,
Right.
if children is what we call the shortened term abolishing operation or an AO, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And I work a lot with working with children and young adults up to like mid 20s, and I see that in my own practice. I see people in their late teens, early 20s sit there and say, I don't really want to have kids, and I'm like, that's okay. That is okay. You children should be something that's going to be what they call an established operation. It should be a motivating thing. You should want that there. If the desire to have kids is not something you want, that is okay.
Right.
100% that is okay. I don't, because what's going to happen is I will see those kids. And if they're coming to me and you're dealing with kids that are dealing with trauma, they're doing that, and kids can pick that up. I will tell your audience, in the years I have been working with kids in 20, what, oh God, over 20, 25 years, kids are very, very perceptive, extremely. They love you, they love their parents, but they can pick up, they just can pick it up that they really were not wanted. And think about, like, I tell adults this: when you go to a job where you're not really wanted, how do you feel? You don't want to be there, but you can escape. Children
Right.
necessarily can't escape. So what do? They learn in their environment how to cope through that, and it becomes
How to
traumatic.
what?
They learn in their environment how to cope through that, and they learn certain ways that are traumatic to deal with that. So a lot of trauma is very much learned behavior that is what we call interfering. It hinders the development, emotional, social development of the person. And so, for the women and you who are your followers, if you don't want to have kids, don't have kids. It's okay. It is more than okay.
So yeah, I see a lot of people talking about the whole becoming celibate thing.
Mm-hmm.
I see people talking about 4B. Hopefully, we'll be able to see those numbers in how things are going, but it's probably going to take a few years. The whole
Yes, I
like
agree.
parents sending their children away from red states. Then
Yeah.
you've shared some articles with me with
Yes.
I really think that there's going to be I was calling it a pink migration, women and girls leaving these red states. I really think that that's because that is coming.
Yeah. see that. I can see that because from a behavior analytic um, viewpoint, the red states it's aversive, and we talked about abolishing operations, establishing operations. What's motivating? If you need to a function of that for people to leave, a red state is escape. People will do what they have to do to escape a situation that is unbearable. Sometimes they'll cope and they'll deal with it and they'll live in that, even though it's not fun because they don't feel it's option. But to a point, when something becomes so motivating for you to get out of that environment, you're going to do what you need to do to get out of the environment. You're just going to. It's more reinforcing, and even though there might be a lot of risk, the risk is not as to you. The risk may be high, but the rewards to get to a place that's safer outweighs that. So you're willing to do what you need to do to get to where you need to get to.
Right. So that would be what we're seeing right now.
Yes.
Um, man, as a from what you are seeing right now with what is going on, I get so many stories. You send me stories. What can women do right now to escape? I know that not everybody can get away.
Right.
But what are some of the things that you think that you have come up with as you're sitting around being smart?
Okay. So, okay. So one thing as a BCBA, I can say if you're going to navigate in a patriarchal environment, which globally we're in a patriarchal environment, certain the behavioral skills that you can do to enhance your safety and pursue your goals as things like I can teach you right now. So some strategies are assertiveness training. You want to develop skills to express your thoughts, your needs, and your boundaries confidently. You want to be, this is going to help you with setting clear expectations and standing up against any attempts of control. You
But
want to be assertive. Yes.
hold on, real
Yes.
quick. You
Yes.
you sound like you're about to start tacking off things. Do you have these talking points to where after you say this thing, you can send it to me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay,
100%.
cool.
Yeah.
All right, bet. Okay, so we got assertiveness training.
Assertiveness training. That's a big one. And I'm seeing more and more women becoming online, becoming more assertive. Like, ladies, that's one thing I will say. The men will tell you it's aggression. No, it's not aggression. No, we're not being aggressive. We're being assertive. Continue that. There's nothing wrong with being assertive. The men are not. The men view our assertiveness as aggression because they've been taught that any type of standing up for ourselves is a form of aggression. It's not. It is not. Assertiveness is not associated with aggression. So you stand in your truth. If you feel that the person that you with, that you're dating, and if he's male or female, whatever, if you feel they're violating your boundaries, tell them. Don't
Right.
wait. Do not wait. It
Right.
goes it goes against your value system. And that's one thing. And I have taught this when I've had people in therapy, is that when something goes against your value system, it's going to feel uncomfortable. You're not going to feel right. You're not going to move through your life in a happy, flowing way. Things are going to get blocked, and it just becomes this behavioral cycle that gets kind of builds on each other. So stand in your truth. It's okay to do that. It is totally okay to do that. I teach little ones that are 3 or 4 years old how to say no to mommy and daddy in a functional way. And
Yeah.
I tell their parents, you know what? It is okay if your 3-year old tells you in a functional, polite way to say no, because just because they're 3 doesn't mean that they don't have their own minds and their own values and their own boundaries. They're just
Right.
little. They're just little.
And but that goes back, we have to at least start respecting kids
Yes,
as humans,
yes,
whereas we've always seen babies and kids as property
yes,
of the parents. And so many people are not ready to allow their children to have values and beliefs outside of themselves because of how we were raised in this white
yes.
supremacy patriarchy.
Well, I'm going to tell people right now, in the 20 plus years I've worked with children and adolescents, I'm telling you right now, as adults, children are starting to, they see it on social media, they see it in Disney cartoons, they see it in movies for kids. They're being taught how to be assertive. They're being taught that. So I think it's actually a good thing to see. So we need to, as adults, adapt our behavior to adjust to that. There is nothing wrong with your child having appropriate, assertive boundaries with you because you're a parent, you're human, you are going to make mistakes. And that is okay if your 8-year-old tells you, Mommy or Daddy, you know what? I don't like this because it feels uncomfortable to me. As long as it's reasonable, and as long as what they're seeing is reasonable, you need to take a step back and saying, hey, as a parent, hey, is this if what I'm asking my child, is this really reasonable? How would I feel if an adult did this with me? Put yourself in your spot. I tell my parents, put yourself in your child's place. How would you feel if an adult did that to you? How do you feel if your boss did that to you? That I wouldn't like that. Okay, so then put yourself in your kid's place. So we get the reason why you want them to clean their room, but there's not to be a better way for you to manage that to get them to clean their room instead of yelling at them. And I'm a parent too. Please, I've yelled at my kid too. But
Yes.
I always come back and I always talk to my son and I always apologize to him and saying I got out of control and I'm sorry. That
Yes.
is so critical. That's why my son will come to me on anything. He'll come to me and he'll say, Mom, I understand why you were frustrated. I do need to change some things in my behavior too.
See, and like so many people equate like we think in binaries. So
Yes.
many people like they're like you're either beating their butts or
Yeah.
you're extra permissive and just letting them do everything, and those
Right.
that's the reason why kids are fighting teachers. Like
Yeah.
they can't see any kind of middle
Right.
ground, like learn to
Well,
talk to your children,
right.
learn to like let's have conversations while they're small about boundaries and
Right.
respect and that kind of thing. That's the reason why they're able to have these conversations and be corrected without you beating their butt.
Right. I honestly, as a parent, I've never spanked my son, and my son he is 19 years old. He's in college. He has autism and ADHD, and is doing just fine. He does not get into trouble. He does that because he and I have always had a relationship as mother and son where we respect each other's boundaries. I listen to him as a person. I remember one time my son, he didn't want to go to church anymore with his grandma. And I sat there and his grandma was disappointed. I understand that. But he's like, Mom, and he was 10. He just sat with me and said, Mommy, I don't want to go to church anymore with grandma. Okay. Tell me why. What's your rationale for why? And I'm not saying that I wasn't judging. He knew I wasn't judging. He said, Mom, I just don't know if I believe fully in God. Okay. And I said, do you have any reasons why? He's like, you told me. And to him, that made sense. So I had to sit there and tell my mom, you need to respect his boundaries on that. He's trying to figure his way. So respect that. Nothing that she wasn't happy, but she understood. So that's the type you want to have. You want to have, I tell parents this, if you want your children to take care of you when you're older, even though your children are not obligated to take care of you older, develop a respectful relationship from them from birth.
Yes. Oh,
Acknowledge that they are little people. Just
yes. And the whole the value system, can we take a step back to that? Because
yeah,
you said that we could use that as a jumping point to my book, which I talk about developing
Values.
a value system in this
Yes.
book. I talk about like what are the three things that are most important to you. And everybody is going to be different. And where
Yes.
some people get caught up is that what I value is not going to be what Camille values, what
Yes.
the sovereign woman values, what E.
Right.
Dunlap values. So my three things are health, women, I'm sorry, my family, health, and women's issues.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so when things are outside of the value system, I have to think, do I have the bandwidth to take this on? If the
Right.
answer is no, then I say no. And that's how you start out with forming your boundaries.
Right.
And I
Yes.
think that for too long, women have been taught to not have boundaries. We're
Yes.
supposed to just
100%.
give in and be a martyr to everything. And
Right.
so when you talk about assertiveness training, I was like, hold up, I already talk about something like this. It might not be in
Yes.
BCBA or BAC, all, the ABCs.
Yes. That's okay. You can mess it up. A lot of people do. It's okay.
So, y'all, for the people in the chat, this segment is brought to you by my book, which can be found at burbandbougieshop.com. Y'all can jump into that. It's not going to be as as technical as Carol here, but I talk about value setting and boundaries in the book.
Yes. Yep. And one thing that what's beautiful about what you've written in there, it goes along a line of a form of therapy that I use, even with my little ones that are 3 and 4, up to older people. It's called acceptance and commitment therapy. Um, and basically, one of the foundations in that is values. If something is, I will say this time and time again, if something goes against your values, you feel it in your body. You can't fully relax. You will find you get in your own way with your own behavior, and it kind of cycles from there. If people, and people in your audience will probably recognize this. It's like if I go against my values, a lot of the other things mess up. So
Yep.
that's why I'm saying assertiveness. I know is difficult for most women, but honestly, it's in your best. It feels uncomfortable. Learning is uncomfortable. Changing a behavior is uncomfortable because you learned a previous way to be that wasn't functional.
Yep.
Learning an assertiveness is a functional skill. Think of it like cooking. You have to learn how to cook. You got to learn how to wash your body. Learn how to be assertive. Think of it like hygiene, because it's part of
Yes.
my who I am. It's part of that. I have taught teenagers that. Think of assertiveness like a hygiene or cooking or washing clothes or cleaning your house. It's a skill.
So Dita C says no is the new yes. And
Yes,
it
says
honestly
Timmy.
it honestly is, because you have to be able to say no
Yes,
to other people so you can say yes to yourself. You have to
exactly.
learn how to honor yourself with things. No, I can't do that. I because I know I got to get to my workout at 7 a.m. tomorrow, and I
Mhm.
just do not have the energy. Like, women have got to be okay with saying
Yeah,
no. it's
yes,
not it's not in my budget. I
yes.
can't do
Ladies, think
that.
of assertiveness like a hot. It's a skill. It is a skill, just like I said, cooking, cleaning, doing hygiene. It is a skill. It's a social skill, but it is a skill. Just like driving is a necessary skill in our day and age, it is a skill that you should learn, and it's a skill I teach little ones how to do. I literally have programs in my treatment where I teach kids with autism and ADHD who are as young as 3 years old to be assertiveness in their power. And there's nothing like a 3 year old that is able to sit there and say, I don't like juice because this, mommy. Okay. And it almost the parents are like, I didn't know. Because now they have the words to feel confident in themselves to listen and tell you, I don't like apple juice because it tastes funny. And that's
So,
okay. That's good. That's what we want.
what I want to do is because it looks like some women are about to. I hold on before we start up with the with ladies. Before we start up with the questions about assertiveness, do you have some more things on the talking point?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Let's try to run through them. Your talking points, and then it sounds is assertiveness training a big bulk of this situation.
No, there's other things that you can do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a little different. The
Okay.
next thing I do, we go into assertiveness training is boundary setting.
Okay.
Not only being assertive, but you got to define your personal boundaries on how to enforce them assertively. So you can be assertive. There's nothing wrong with being assertive, but if you don't reinforce the boundaries that you set in your assertiveness, why? What was the point of you being assertive?
Okay.
There was no point.
Right.
Another thing is, and this is why you are having, this is why the men are coming in your comment section and they come to our spaces, is it bothers them, and men especially who are abusive. They don't like your channel and a lot of other women's channels that are supportive because networking and support system is critical. And
Woo!
one is very critical. And one thing I think, the advent of social media, there's good and bad to social media. One thing that I think that it has done that's a benefit to women, that has changed women's learning behavior, how they should be, is the networking and support systems at a global level. That is new. We are literally seeing women that are in Japan agreeing with somebody that's in Pennsylvania and saying, "Hey, you know what? Men do that here too. What's up with that?" Because it's a learned behavior in a patriarchal system that is global. So women are like, "Yeah, we're all kind of going through this. What?"
Yes. Right. It's just a different flavor of dustiness.
Yes,
Carol, why was
yes,
I just on the phone with a Korean woman? I have a future Korean correspondent. Like literally, I have other people watching my stuff and they're about to start feeding me. And the only thing that is stopping me is that the fact that I need help with all of this stuff to be able to push out all this content.
right,
Because you start talking about Korea, and it's just like I have a story time. And from wherever these other countries, ladies
right.
in the comment section, tell me where you are watching this from. Let me know where you are. All right, so we got networking, support system, and the whole thing with Reddit. Me discovering Reddit has been clutch because
Oh, I love Reddit.
it's giving me examples to talk about. And
Yes,
I know that some of these conversations could literally be fake, but you can find cautionary tales with the grasshopper. What is that? The ant and
right.
the grasshopper.
Fairy tales. Fairy
Yeah.
tales are just fairy tales. A lot of times were warnings. If you look at that, fairy tales were ways to tell children kind of how to function in life a bit, with kind of warnings about stuff in a culture. So yeah, no different.
All right, so we got all kind of people. We got Mexico. We got Mexico in the house. I got Lebanon. I got LA. I got
Wow,
Canada. I got Virginia. I got Florida. I got Pennsylvania.
wow. Well,
I
hello,
got
ladies. Hello.
this is super duper cool. When I was launching this stuff last year, because Carol has been with me from the beginning when I had like
Yes,
800 people. So
yes.
this is wild that it has grown
Well,
this.
I said you it would. I told you it would. I told you as a behavior analyst, I'm like, look, I know it's gonna grow. This is what you got to do.
Huh?
And I remember when I sat there and I said, "This is what you got to do. You're just gonna grow." And you're like, "Okay," and you kind of doubted it, and you're like, "But look at where you're
Right.
at." Behavior is communication. It's just knowing how to communicate in a functional way, and you found your niche, and you you're teaching women how to communicate in a functional way.
Hold on. The counter the what were you saying? Counter what was
Counter
it?
control. Counter
The
control.
counter control. The counter
Yes.
control that I did was,
Yes.
all right, I keep getting banned on Facebook and TikTok. Let me go on and move over to
Yes.
YouTube. The next thing that I'm going to be doing, y'all, is setting up a Substack where I can gather emails. Somebody told
Good.
Melanie Hamlet told me to set up a Substack because it helps me gather emails. So if I ever get kicked off of YouTube, I'll be able to be like, all right, this is where
Yep.
I am now. So
Do a
that's
Patreon too. Do a
that
Patreon
goes,
too.
huh?
Do a Patreon too.
I do have a Patreon, but I can't do all of this by myself. This is the reason why I
Right.
have to add some people. But it's counterculture. I mean, what is it
Control.
again? Counter
Counter
control.
control.
I keep trying to say counterculture. Counter control is like shifting, moving around, but also the whole networking, sharing secrets,
Yes.
not sharing tips with each other.
Yep.
And that's where we are, like, right now. I have the
Yes.
Sovereign Woman. Thank you, Sovereign Woman, for the 4.99. I appreciate that. But nowadays we have married people, we got single people, we got single moms by choice, we have child free by choice,
Yes.
and men can't stop this movement. They
Right.
can't stop this
They're
movement.
trying.
They're
They're trying.
trying.
They're trying through counter control. So, ladies, when you are dealing with these men, I'm telling you, as a behavior analyst, a BCBA, it's counter control. So, just the things that I'm telling you to do to navigate around that, this is what you need to do, and it will help. If I teach little ones this, if it helps a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old who are neurodivergent, and I'm a neurodivergent woman, if it helps us, it definitely is going to help you function through a patriarchal society. Because at a culture, it takes decades sometimes for a culture to change. And you can't worry about that. We cannot worry about that anymore. You gotta, we have to keep doing what we're doing and functioning and changing your own behavior at the level you're at. Other women will learn from that. And if you can teach other women, that's how a change happens. So that's what you need to do. So some of the other things I could say is self-defense training. Now, self-defense training, that can look different for everybody. All right. But the important thing is why I say self-defense training, because let's be real. Some of these men will use violence in a form of counter control. They will try to get you in line with that. So defending yourself is a way of trying to get that control back. And it'll make you feel more empowered, and that'll feed into your learned behavior of assertiveness. You notice how everything that I'm talking, as a BCBA, one of the things that we do is we tie our skills together. So everything I'm talking about, if you notice, it all goes together. Yep. And they
Okay.
all build on each other.
So we got self defense. What else we
Right.
got?
Educating others, what you're doing. So, ladies, yes, Burb is doing a beautiful job of doing that, but you take it on yourselves to educate young girls around you. If we really want to change things at a cultural level, don't just rely on her. Teach girls that are around you. Teach boys that are around you. If you really want a society to change, you have to target boys, little boys. That's the one thing that I do disagree with when I see how women will talk about stop birthing boys. As a behavior analyst who works with children, why that disturbs me is because if we really want fundamental change, we also have to reach boys. We have to teach them. Your sister has a right to be assertive. Your teacher has a right to be assertive. Your auntie has a right to be assertive, and you as a boy has a right to be assertive. You need to be assertive because if we actually teach functional ways to be assertive in the world, think about how that would be. We would all know how to express affection and love in an appropriate way. We would all know. Boys would sit there, if they're taught from the time that they are infants, they would know when a girl says no, it means no, because I learned that from mom. I learned that from dad. And I like it when people respect my boundaries too. Because boys, they don't a lot of boys they think, and a lot of men, they think assertiveness is means it means pushing your way and trying to smother a person. That's not assertiveness. That's abusive. Assertiveness should never feel like abuse. It does not feel like abuse. So I teach little boys how to be assertive. I teach little girls how to be assertive. I
Yeah.
run groups that are for little ones that'll have boys and girls in it, and they're 5 to 7 years old. They're sitting around and they communicate with each other. And the girls will say, "Stop! Don't do that." And they'll say that to a boy, and they'll say, "Why?" But I will stop the girl and say, "Tell them why." And the same thing with the boy. Tell him why. That is what. So instead of saying boys don't need to be born, we need boys to be born, but as we need to teach them how to have good skills within assertiveness, not aggression.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Um,
What's the next talking point?
and another thing is documentation. So this is the BCBA that's part of me. All right. So as you know, I record data. So one, how you can use this for yourselves, ladies, is when you see that if you are questioning, like, is this guy really being disrespectful to me? And if he's someone that you're around a lot, what you can do, start recording the data on it. Write it down in a journal. Write down your interaction with them, with what we call ABC data. Antecedent, what happened before, what was the behavior, and what was the consequence. So write it down. Write it down. If you see a pattern, as long as you're not being hurt, I'm going to preface that. Long as if you're in an abusive situation and he is being physically abusive to you, if he's being horribly emotionally abusive to you, get out. Just leave. Don't worry about writing down data. Right now, your safety is most paramount. But if you feel he's just being kind of disrespectful, start recording it. If you're stuck in doubting that, if you feel he's gaslighting you, write it down and then you'll see the pattern. Look at the trend and you'll look at it and it's like, you know what? Yeah, he really is being kind of disrespectful. He did this on this day. He did this on this day. He did this on this day. To me, as a behavior analyst, uh, observing it and recording the data, that is what you need. So if you see that, that's probably a sign that, yeah, I need to change the situation. I need to change my environment. So just like with me as a BCBA, think of yourself as a little mini BCBA. So take that data and say, what should I do? What should I do? Maybe I should break up with him. Because, I got 3 pages of where he's just a crappy person.
Right.
And it's not, and the trend is going upwards for him to continue to be a crappy person, and it's escalating in what we call magnitude. Yeah, I need to not be in this. So let me break up with him.
And you know what's interesting is like when I read some of these Reddit threads,
Mm-hmm.
from the women, it'll be like, yeah, he was always taking my food. He's never on
Yeah.
time. He locked me out of the
Yep.
house one time. He
Yep.
took my car. And you're reading this, it is like you have enumerated all of the
Yeah.
reasons to break up
Yeah.
with him, but
Yeah.
you're asking, yes, please break up with him.
Yeah. It's the data. And it's funny if you see it in physical form on paper, you're gonna see it has a lot more weight than if you just are kind of like guessing. Because you'll see it, you'll be like, well, damn, he's been doing this disrespectful crap for the past 6 months. Yeah, and it's getting worse. Yeah, I need to get out of this because it's 6 months of it. Now he's not going to remember, and he's probably going to feel like you're being petty. You know what? That's not about him. It's not about him. It's about you. You got the hard data. And that's it. Data is everything. Data is it. Write it down. Write down his bad behavior. Write it down. Okay. Two more things. Emotional intelligence. So I want you to start learning the skills, whether that's through Uber, whether it's through going to a professional, whether it's getting books or help books. Develop the skills to know how to recognize manipulative tactics and when men use counter control to try to get back control of you, especially in this patriarchal society. And then learn the skills of how to stay calm. And trust me, I know. And I'm a BCBA. I teach kids and I teach young adults how to stay calm. It is hard with some of these men. I 100% get it. Trust me. Oh, trust me. They can push you to the limit. But you know what? I gather myself up and I'm like, hey, hey. So learn the emotional intelligence skills of how to navigate around that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Because if you present to this dude that you've got 5 months worth of data showing that this guy is crappy, he's going to sit there and he's going to use manipulation and say, why did you record that? Why did you do all that? It's not about you, man. Stay calm in that moment. It's like, okay, I did it because I needed to for me. That's all you need to know. And then just do what you need to do to get out. And the last thing, oh, go ahead.
It sounds like each of these things that you're talking about will end up needing to be their own video or their own topic. But
Yeah.
go ahead, continue. What's the last one?
The last one is financial independence.
Woo!
Yes. Okay. If you want to do the soft light, I am all for that. If that's what makes you happy, if that's a motivating thing for you, that's within your value. If you want to be a trad wife, okay. I'm not, as long as it's not hurting you, okay. But this is the deal. You also need to understand there's risk to that. I think in our society, we don't know the difference between dependence and interdependence. You want to be in a healthy relationship, people are interdependents. They're not dependents, they're interdependents. So interdependent means that they both rely on each other equally, that they both feel like they're at an equal space. They're both at an equal place. One is not more than the other. That's my issue with some of the trad wife stuff, is that they try to use it as a way to show that the man is above them. No. One thing, my parents were married till my father passed away. Okay. They were married 42 years till he passed away from Parkinson's. My parent, to this day, when my father passed away, my mom's in her early 80s. Well, she said, I remember that she said when my father passed, she said, I will never marry again. Because growing up, they had a very interdependent relationship on each other. They respected each other. They saw that they needed each other, but my father never made my mother feel belittled. And my mom did the same. They relied on each other. So you want a relation, there's nothing wrong with interdependence. Dependence is when you are totally reliant on somebody for everything. And if that person goes away, what happens to you?
Right.
Interdependence, you're still your own individual person. So financial security is giving you, if you have your own financial security, that's an interdependent move. That is not a dependent move. That's interdependent. If you have a man that's in your life that has a hard time with that, think about that. Really think about that. So is that someone that you want to have there? Because I guarantee you his behavior is reflected in other very interfering, not good ways, not just that.
So I do want to let y'all know that yes, I will be recapping this list. Even if I don't get, and I will probably work to give some examples of some of these things because, like she said, they build on each other. I talk about these things in my book, and I did not even have this list. So this is going to be something that we really need because we have had so many generations of programming that is counterintuitive to just about everything that you said.
Yes.
Because and like someone said in the comments, they kind of expect us to react. So
Yes.
having some emotional intelligence to be able to hear what these people are saying or block them. Like I do have this, I have a man in my comments. I believe this is a man, I'm not sure, saying the fact that you block or ban any point of contention shows how weak your points are. Now, this person is
Okay.
probably getting me
So
to wanting me to
so
react.
that's
Huh?
okay. So I will say that to this man that's saying that, that is form of counter control. That
Yes.
is a very
Yes.
beautiful example. So thank you,
Yes.
sir, for showing us an example of dysfunctional negative counter control. That was a
Yes.
beautiful example of it. So
Beautiful
ladies,
example.
yes. So ladies, that's an example of counter control. He came in here trying to get control of the situation. So the
Right.
best way to react to that is not to react to that. So
Right.
either you can become more aversive to him and become what I would say more of a pain in the ass, and that's a special skill. As a behavior analyst, I know how to do that. Verb knows I know how to do that very well, but I'm a
But what
behavior analyst. Or you just don't react to it and block them and say, bye.
right. So this person is about to be blocked. But that's the thing is like, they want a reaction from us. Who are my mods? If y'all go ahead and block Ebonia Knight or whatever this person is, they just like when you're in an argument or you're with your significant other,
Yes,
when a woman is still reacting, when the woman is still throwing things or throwing hissy fits, she cares. When a
yes,
woman starts being quiet,
yes.
that's when you should have
Oh,
issues.
100%. 100%. So
100%.
So I will have children that come to my therapy. I've had teenagers in my therapy where they're having tantrums. I don't react to the tantrum. Now, I may, with the little ones, out of respect, I'll acknowledge their feelings underneath the tantrum. I know you're scared. I know you're frustrated. I know you're angry. But you know what? It's not okay to do that to me. It's not okay to hit me. It's not okay to yell. So let's calm down. When you calm down and stop crying, then I will talk to you and then we'll figure out a way. And if we can compromise, we'll try to do that. But sometimes I'm not able to do that. And that you have to be okay with that. So what happens with the beautiful thing when I do with the little ones, their behavior changes because they realize I don't have to have a tantrum to be listened to. A lot of these guys don't know how to emotionally function because they've never been taught how to function in a productive, functional way. It's basic functional communication training. I teach children how to do that. And ladies, the more you get skilled with teaching yourself how to functionally communicate within functional communication training, the better you can react to these guys. Like Bird knows I can piss these guys off, but I'm a behavior analyst. She knows I can target. I'm like a sniper. I can target their behavior like that, and I don't even have to see their face. But I'm also a BCBA. And it sets them off. Does it not? It sets them off in a tizzy. Don't do that with them. I do that sometimes just to show like to example to loving ladies that are in the chat and they laugh because it's just it's like okay, but then I just don't deal with they most of the time they just I become so aversive that they just kind of like I don't want to deal with this woman. Yeah, that was the point. I don't want you ever dealing with me again.
Right.
But I would say don't necessarily do that. Just become more skilled in learning how to become more functional in your own communication, and learn how to reinforce what your values, learn how to become more emotionally intelligent on how not to react to the tantrum. It's
Right.
okay with your boyfriend or your husband, as long as he's not abusive, it's okay to acknowledge him and tell him, okay, I know you're having a tantrum, and I know you're upset, and I understand you're angry, but I really don't. When you calm down, we can talk. And if they don't want to talk, and I don't know, okay, well then you know what? Do what I do with like the little ones. I'll just wait till you calm down. I'll just wait for you, and just go about your business. And I have done that literally with little ones that they're having a tantrum. I'm like, I'm waiting for you to calm down. When you calm down, then and it's funny they get it together and then they sit there and I'm like, oh, okay. So that's the same thing. Ladies do the same thing when you're in an argument with your man. Same thing. Just say, I'm waiting for you to calm down. And
Woo!
then you just go about and do what you need to do. If that was reading, watching your show, washing your dishes, saying, oh, I got to go to the store. I'll be back. So when I come back, I'll come check on you and see if you're ready to talk. If they're not ready to talk, okay, well, I'm waiting for you to calm down and then go do your thing. 99%, it will throw them in a loop. They'll be like, why is she fighting with me?
Right.
Why? Why would I?
They and so there are some of us that are still, they some of us still care.
Yeah.
And you can tell that they still care because they are still begging for
Yeah, it's
men
attention
to
based.
see us as human.
Yes.
I do want to say thank you to hold on. I want to say thank you. Someone's to Yuki, I'm not sure, but she says, I'm tired of teaching men and boys that we women are human. And so many of us are like, see me, I am human. I have feelings. You should
Right.
respect me. Don't you respect your mother? You should.
Right.
It's like at this particular point,
So don't.
we've
Yeah,
said
so
enough.
don't. Don't
I
don't teach them. Don't teach them. I
I
said boys, it's okay. Men, you don't need to teach men. Teach
they
boys.
like I don't have the bandwidth.
Yeah.
So like I don't my I'm still growing in my community.
Right.
And even with me blocking these people, because they don't come in to learn from us, they come
No.
in to do their countermeasures or
Counter control. Yes.
they come in to do their counter control. They don't want to listen to us and
Uh-uh.
learn from women. They want to
Right.
derail the conversations. That's
Right.
the reason why I block people. I don't block people because I want an echo chamber. But
Right.
even when I disagree with people, I am not trying to make them believe exactly what I want them to believe. And
Right.
you can disagree with me and we have a civil conversation and learn
Yeah.
from each other and laugh in the next post.
Yeah.
It's complete, like we can do that, but we are not. And for the people in my comment section right now, I want y'all to know we are not going back and forth with these men's. They're either going to
Yes.
sit here in our conversation and learn from us, or they won't be
Or
able to be
or
in
just
the
go away.
conversation.
Yeah,
Huh?
don't feed into it. Just go away. Like I it's funny. It's you ladies, you have to remember they have been it's what they call operative learning. It's learned behavior in their environment. So they've been around this in their home, is in at a larger way at a societal level. So when it's coming to you, and they've been going through this for decades. So it's very hard to change your behavior unless you really do stuff to really change your behavior. Stop teaching men. Don't do it. It's okay. Why I say focus, it's okay to teach boys is because if you want things to change in the future, you have to target boys and girls. They're children. If you want things to change 20 years from now, 10 years from now, you have to teach them. And I'm not just saying for women, I'm also talking for men that are actually have learned how to work through a lot of their stuff. Teach girls and boys. That's what we should do as adults. Teach them a more functional way to communicate. Don't worry about these men. As long as they're not hurting you, as long as they're not physically violent to you, then do self defense to protect yourself when they do that. But don't teach them. So whoever that was that said that I'm tired, okay, that's totally okay. Not your role to teach them. Don't teach anymore, grown men. It's not your role, not your butt. That's okay. Don't do it.
So, I typically, well, you might not know, this is our first conversation, but for the most people that have seen my lives, I typically only do an hour live. I have kids over there
Yeah.
and they give me about an hour. So, but this is a good conversation. We are getting into the meat of things, assertiveness. Let's have emotional intelligence. One of the things I want to talk about with
Mm-hmm.
emotional intelligence is recognizing that I have beliefs, you have
Yes.
beliefs, I
Yes.
have opinions, you have opinions.
Yes.
You believe that that tree over there is the most amazing tree in the
And
world.
that's
she
okay.
she believes that that tree is annoying because it has too much shade and she
Mm-hmm.
needs all of the sun. It is perfectly fine to have separate opinions and beliefs. We have
Yes.
got to be okay with saying you have an opinion and that is
And our
fine. That
opinion.
is not my
Right.
opinion.
Right. As
Once
long.
we
Yeah.
Once people get that skill down, you have
Hmm.
an opinion, and that is fine. The whole emotional intelligence thing, I think it kind of works itself out.
Yeah, it does. It does. And
Um,
and it's a skill. Becoming emotional intelligence is a skill. It really is. It's not something that comes naturally. Just like I will say that it drives me nuts when I hear these men that are not very functional talk about leadership. Leadership is not a ladies. I will say this time and time again. Leadership is not an innate skill. It's not something you're born with. It's a learned skill. Pretty much
um,
everything we do in life is a learned skill except for behaviors that are biological. Sleep, eat, sex, things like that. That's not learned, that's respondent. You can't help that. But leadership is a learned skill. You have to be taught and practice time and time again how to be a good leader and have role models that model that behavior for you. It's not a natural thing to become it's just not a natural thing. It isn't.
so it's not just having a peen and then you're a
No,
leader.
no.
Hmm.
No, just like being a mother is not something that's innately biological, natural to. No, I could tell you throughout the. No, there's plenty of people, women that have not wanted to have kids that were forced to have kids. I see the results of that. So
Um,
yeah, no, it's not.
mm,
Yeah, the only thing that's natural about that is maybe your bio. If you're able to get pregnant, is biologically your body takes over, but that's a respondent behavior. You can't control that unless you take birth control.
right.
But outside of that, no, you can't. You can't control that. There's no guarantee you birthing your child is going to make you a good mom.
Okay.
That's just no. It's just no. Leadership's the same way.
All right. So, I probably will not be going live next Tuesday. I have been going live on Tuesdays pretty consistently. Um, Hold on. Don't miss a day says, then who should lead then? At this particular point, people should first and foremost learn how to lead themselves.
Yes.
But it just
Right.
like people are so used to someone being in charge. They
Right.
look for somebody to say, you need to do this, this, and this.
Be a
Because
leader in your life. Be a
we
leader
we
in your own life.
we've been primed, and they have
Yeah.
done that from the time that we're in school, like to have these savior complexes, like
Yeah.
the teacher is so important, the doctor is so important, and like literally sometimes the doctor needs to listen to you,
Yes.
sometimes the teacher needs to hear a different point of view.
Yes.
Like we got to get away from thinking that somebody needs to be a leader.
Right.
I i am good at taking people's stories and disseminating.
Yes. Very
Carol
good.
is she is the data person. She can say the educated things. I can take her educated things and put it in colloquialisms that other people understand. Other people can be better at marketing. Let's get this video out to a bunch of people. Somebody else might be better at chopping it up. Maybe this person can only take chunks of it. What you're leading at whatever you are good at. And some
Right.
people might lead in hitting like. Maybe that's all you can do and you're only physically capable of hitting like, and you don't have anything to bring to this particular situation, and that's fine. Just don't derail. That's what
Right.
your skill could be at that particular
Yes.
juncture if you don't have anything to
Right.
add.
Be a leader in your own life. Be a leader to yourself.
Look at what he said. He's like, okay, okay, like leave me alone.
And
I
it's funny.
I am
It's
passionate.
so funny that she said that because I've had some little ones. They'll be like, "I will do this with the little ones." They're like, "Okay, okay, Carol, okay, okay," and they're just like, "Okay, like you're getting on my nerves," and I'm like, "Am I getting on your nerves, sir or ma'am?" They're like, "Yes." I'm like, "Okay, well then I did my job." Because are you feel better? That you got it out? Yes. Okay, that's good. And that's okay. But do you understand why I'm trying to teach you this? Yes, I get it. Okay, okay. It's okay to be frustrated, but I'm trying to help you too. They're like, okay, fine. So yeah, it's okay.
All right. You know what, Gail Jones, yes, you caught a lie, but you caught the tail end of it because I'm actually about to get out of here. But you definitely want to get the replay of this because we talked about counter control, which
Yep.
is give what did I say was the example? Like
But the gentleman that came in and did, let me give the formal definition. Basically, within applied behavior analysis. It's a phenomenon where an individual tries to influence or change the behavior of another person by adjusting their actions. So that's counter control. Counter control can be positive or negative. The gentleman that came in that did what he did is a form of counter control that's negative. You trying to do change, do productive things in your life at your job when they put new rules that's forth, but you have to kind of do those things that new policies at your job, and you try to be productive within that, and you do excel at that. That's more positive counter control. So counter control it's not necessarily good or bad.
all right.
It's a behavior.
All right. So hit the replay, y'all. Send this out, and I will be taking her points and giving some examples because we are going to be more assertive. We're going to talk about financial independence. We're going to keep talking about boundaries, self defense, saying no, all of that. We're going to keep talking about this because it's going to take at least two generations to deprogram
Yeah.
all of this indoctrination that we've been
Yes.
programmed with. It's going to take two generations,
At
but
least. Yeah.
the shift is coming.
Yeah, it is. And
The
just to
shift.
let you guys know, I have my own private practice that I also own with a friend of mine who's a BCBA, and she's another black woman BCBA. We have a private practice. If you We work with from little ones from 3 years old all the way up to like mid 20s. So we just do different
Yeah.
things. We have I can get the information to Bird. You guys ever?
Yes.
I practice in Washington. There's a few other states. I'm trying to get my license. We're trying to branch out, and we have speech and language. We actually will start having parent groups, things like that. If you live in Michigan, Detroit area, you can look us up, things like that. Sometimes we do telehealth, but it depends on if you have a license in your state. If I have a license in your
and
state, but
and you don't have to worry about it. I'll put your once this live finishes, I'll and you send me your information,
okay,
I'll just put it into the description box.
okay.
So guys, the live has to end. I know that she and I can keep talking. Y'all can keep
Yep,
talking
it
in the
is.
chats. It happens. We all like talking, but I do have to wrap it up.
And I'm glad that I was able to tell you guys what a BCBA is and counter control. And now you guys know what the men are doing. It's counter control and how you can do your own positive counter control to counter their negative counter control. So,
Yes.
yeah.
All right. All right. Carol, stay there for a second. The
Okay.
rest of y'all, I will see y'all in some of these videos. Y'all will see me. All right. In